And since this is the end of the first half of the spring split, this is kind of setting your pace going into the second half, right? We're going to have a week off after this. Teams are going to have these games in their mind for that week, plus things that they're going to be looking at, things they're going to be improving on. It would be great to end this one on a win.
Yeah, it really is a good point. Being able to go out on a good note, kind of ending the first half on a good note is very important for these teams because it can sometimes weigh on you a bit if you have a really poor week. And one of these teams is going to be going 0-2 this week, something that was not really expected. And falling 0-2 after having like a resurgence like both these teams had in the last couple weeks would definitely be a tough one.
Really messes up your momentum, but we're into picks and bans for game number 1. And the banning phase has taken a drastic turn this week in the LCS. We're not seeing the Unholy Trinity banned away constantly on the red side anymore. This time around, Immortals are going to be taking Syndra, Camille, and Graves off the table, while Echo Fox respond with Ryze, Varus, and LeBlanc. Immortals picking up that Rengar for Dardoch immediately.
Yeah, so this was the trend that we saw in Immortals pick bans yesterday against CLG. All 3 games, Rengar was left open. All 3 games, it was first picked. Dardoch got it one of those 3 games, and actually did not have the best performance. He did win that game, though. He actually won all the games in that series, so certainly a very strong pick. And Dardoch is a very heavy carry-style jungler. If he can get going on the Rengar, we could see him take over.
Yeah, the most played jungler for Dardoch so far this split is the Kha'Zix, which was the go-to since Rengar was a permaban up until now. Have to see if he can make the plays on the similar champion in the Rengar. But Echo Fox's first rotation very quickly locked in the Jhin and the Malzahar, and the response from Immortals is going to be Jayce and Sivir.
Jayce is flexed, certainly on this team. Could go to either top lane or mid lane. The Sivir is becoming something that is a bit of a response to the Jhin. So Varus is already off the table. That's maybe the top tier pick. Sivir outpushes Jhin ridiculously hard. That way you can kind of circumvent some of the weaknesses in lane. You constantly shove in your opponents, especially when paired with something like a Karma who can also help you push out the waves. You push in your opponents, you poke them out under lane, and you simply turn it into a bit of a farm lane. And then Sivir in the super late game really can outscale and have a lot of success against something like the Jhin. We saw this exact AD carry matchup yesterday in the one win that Immortals did get against CLG, where Cody Sun was able to get to 6 items and really start to pump out some damage.
And we're going into this series, Azael, looking at the jungle matchup first and foremost, the Dardoch versus Akaadian hype, right? And what could be a better matchup in game number 1 than Rengar versus Kha'Zix to personify that contest between these two junglers?
Assassin versus assassin, you gotta love it. The top laner is getting some focus here in the second ban round, though. We talked about Flame's great Rumble games yesterday. He's not going to get to play that in game 1 here today. And Looper had some big carry performances on the Singe, especially last week against TSM. That'll be taken off the board here, too.
Definitely no surprise to see those champions that met with such success being banned away in the second part of the banning phase now. Zyra and Twisted Fate also going to be accompanying them. Twisted Fate, a champion that pretty much only sees bans against Echo Fox and, of course, Froggen specifically. That rapid-fire cannon pick-a-card just comes at you from such a long range. You don't have to deal with that.
No, I certainly don't. Especially not unless you're Jack, because Jack gets tilted by the rapid fire. But Pobelter has played it in the past, and it is something that Immortals can use to shore out some of their weaknesses. A lot of people talk about the fact that this team does struggle to play kind of the rotational game, the macro game in the late stages. And TF is something that kind of helps you to play that more easily. You can move around the map with your ultimate, obviously very easily. Because one of the things that Pobelter has really struggled with when he's playing champions like Ryze is getting caught out in side lanes, not being able to be with his team at the times that he needs. So getting something on TF could have been good, but not going to happen.
Froggen will be on Corki this time around. The response from Immortals is going to be picking up Shen for Flame in the top lane. So that means the Jayce is going to be mid lane after all. That flex pick is now revealed, and the support will be Karma to round out this roster as their final pick.
I love the Karma with the Sivir. This was the go-to composition all last year, Karma Sivir.
The speed up buttons.
Yeah, the speed up buttons are huge, but it's also just the pushing in lane. The Karma Qs the back range minions, and then 1 Q plus the W from the Sivir. Even at early levels, before you have a lot of AD, you can still clear out those waves exceptionally fast. Last pick going to be going over to Echo Fox, so we'll see if Looper can get anything for himself in that top lane that's going to give him an advantage. And I mean, Nautilus is certainly a solid pick. It's strange for me to see Maokai go all the way through untouched if it actually does end up doing so. And yeah, Maokai's just going to be completely ignored in this one. Interesting.
Looks like they're going to go with the Poppy instead. They were juggling back and forth between a couple of those big tank picks. They wanted a frontliner. Their composition was sorely lacking one up until that last pick, so they had to go with something along those lines, and apparently Poppy fits the mold just a little bit better this time around.
Yeah, I mean, Poppy is more of a playmaker, I would say, than something like the Maokai. Maokai is kind of has more baseline strength, right? You are a bit tankier. You have point-and-click initiation, a lot of CC, gank assist. A lot of that stuff does come from Poppy as well, but it's more based on positioning. It's skill shot. It's like, you know, wall dependent for the stun, etc. So there's more contingencies there for Looper, but if you can pull it off, the Poppy can look exceptionally strong. Also, something that you have to think of is heroic presence here, and I think that's a big reason that they are going to it. Heroic presence will interrupt the Shen taunt, will interrupt the Jayce hammer form, will interrupt the Rengar ultimate. So that's 3 things that you can actually use a heroic presence on, and I think that's probably why Looper is going for it, trying to have that playmaking ability, the kind of Guardian type defensive play.
And that's what you've got to do when you've got somebody like a Jhin on your team, when you've got a Corki as well, very vulnerable targets. When you've got an enemy team that not only has things like a Rengar and a Jayce and a Shen, but they've got the Sivir and the Karma with those speed ups like we were talking about to get them in there. Slowing that down a little bit, giving your guys an extra second to breathe could be the difference between winning and losing a fight.
It really could. I mean, it's even just looking at Shen. If you stop one Shen taunt, the Shen starts to feel pretty worthless in the fight. Like in late game team fights, the taunt mostly is what you're doing. You're not pumping out a lot of damage. Yes, Spirit's Refuge, the little parry zone is nice, but that's not what you're there for. You're there for the crowd control with that taunt, and even just blocking that up can be pretty impactful.
Here we go, loading onto Summoner's Rift for game number 1 between Immortals and Echo Fox. 2 middle-of-the-pack teams looking to separate themselves from that mid-level melee and show that they are a top-tier squad. Which one's going to be victorious? That's the question we'll be answering here at the end of all this dust settling. But first and foremost, we got to watch the teams head out and see what they do at level 1. Immortals grouping up in a small little huddle right now. Dardoch, Flame, and Olleh hanging out in this river brush, seeing if maybe they're going to go for a little bit of a delayed invade here, but Akaadian is watching. See him come in. Brush is going to be checked by the inner Flame, and Immortals continue to move up, likely going to throw down some vision here and make their way back out.
Yeah, they just want to be able to track where Akaadian is going to start. Obviously, what you're giving up is as soon as you do this, the other team is free to then invade on the opposite side of the map. They have those 2v1 numbers, and they can look for something here. And Gate trying to do a little bit of damage. You can see the Malzahar nerfs there as he wasn't able to instantly double pop his Void spawns, so he could only get 1 extra minion proc there. But Keith is actually pretty far up. Is going to have to use a potion. That actually hurts quite a lot.
Keith taking some damage, but Olleh is the one who's forced to blow both summoner spells. Pobelter coming around from the side as well. The damage is all over the place. Pobelter going to be taken very low. Akaadian still looking to maybe finish this one off if he can. Flashes forward, but he can't find the damage. Going to be forced back. The Deadly Flourish will not be finding POB. That was way too close for comfort.
This is now that everything is just free for right now.
Akaadian's going to be first blooded. You gotta be kidding me! First blood goes the way of Dardoch, the jungler contest. Off to a good start for Immortals.
No kidding. Akaadian did not use his smite for the heal there as Dardoch jumped in. That would have been a really good play. Could have perhaps kept him alive. Not going to react in time, and now Akaadian is going to be starting his jungle exceptionally late. He's going to be starting it with no leash. And he's going to be down that 1 kill already. Ouch.
You know, yesterday in Liquid versus Dignitas, we saw some crazy level 1 fights around the blue side red buff. And today in Immortals versus Echo Fox, we're seeing some even weirder level 1 fights around the red buff for the blue side. Dardoch feeling comfortable with that result, though, grabbing himself the 400 gold for the first blood. 3 different people also part of the assist for that one, so it works out well for them. And Echo Fox, they got to make sure they're not making mistakes like that as this goes on. Akaadian's got to shake that off and be ready to be one of the carries that his team needs. We mentioned it in champion selection. Both of these assassin-style, carry-style junglers, they need to get going.
Yeah, they really do. And you know, Akaadian, he looked a little bit tilted yesterday when he was playing the Kha'Zix game. You know, evolving even the wrong skill at level 16. He took the ultimate accidentally. So things like this can get into your head. He needs to be able to play it calm from here and still look to have a good game. The game is far from over, but it's definitely a bad start. As not only did he flash to try to get the first blood when he was out of range, he then didn't reactively smite to heal himself. He gives up his own first blood. These are certainly things that can weigh on you.
And especially going into this, the little bit of a preview that we had showed both junglers talking about how they believe themselves to be the superior player in this one-on-one matchup.
They're trying to prove it.
If you make a mistake like that early on, that can get to you. Pobelter now going to be in some danger. Froggen almost grabbing the kill there. This is the second time this game that Pobelter's health has been just a sliver away from death.
Yeah, that was ridiculously close. He's looking for it. Pobelter is not caught shopping there. But now Pobelter will eventually end up with that summoner advantage because he had already blown both the summoners. That's both summoners down from Froggen. So there will be a minute or two here where neither of these guys has flash, and it could draw a lot of jungle attention towards the mid lane because these guys are going to be vulnerable, and Pobelter is already way behind as far as the farm. So especially Akaadian, if he's able to come there and kill off Pobelter before his flash comes back up, he could get so behind.
That could put Akaadian right back into the game, put Echo Fox right where they want to be. And one interesting thing I want to go ahead and point out, exhaust on both of these mid laners, as we might have a trap set up here in the top side.
Dardoch is sneaking in there. He's looking for this gank. We'll see if he wants to pull the trigger.
Flame
waiting
trying
for
to
that
just
taunt.
Bait Looper a little bit closer to that brush. Lets him pick up the buckler, trying to get him just a little bit more confident. There we go. Dardoch jumps in. Looper trying to get himself away from this one, pops the flash. I don't think it's going to be doing anything. Dardoch with the flash into the brush. The Rengar mechanics sealed the deal.
That was nice from Dardoch. So much patience there from Flame as well, waiting until the Poppy was right in his face so he could not reactively interrupt that taunt. Not much of a chance for Looper. They get his flash, they get a kill. Dardoch is going to be off to the races here.
Patience from Flame, proper execution from Dardoch. Couldn't have gone any better.
Yeah, this was great. I mean, Looper did his best to try to get out, but the flash into the bush, he gets the leap again, and Akaadian was making his way over, not going to get there in time. Really well played here from Immortals, and Flame's even going to be able to catch this huge wave. Not missing out on anything.
2-0 start for Immortals, almost 1,000 gold lead, 5.5 minutes into this game. Ninja Tabby up and running on that Shen. Not only going to be helping against the Poppy, but if Akaadian does decide to show up, it's going to make Shen that much harder to kill, so a good first pickup for him. Got to be happy about backing with enough gold for that one.
Yeah, he certainly will be. You know, could have gone for something like the Bomby Cinder as well. I think that is much better for the actual dueling in the lane. But you are going to get the additional move speed, and you are going to have the ability to be tankier against the double AD carries as well as the Kha'Zix. So he's kind of trading off some lane power for something that's going to be more powerful later, or give him a little bit more safety to avoid the ganks. And Akaadian getting invaded on, he's going to have to leave his jungle, and that is a pretty bad feeling.
Level 4 to level 5. Dardoch also has his Skirmisher Saber up, while Akaadian does not. So if they get into that 1v1, the challenging smite can make a big difference too.
Yeah, it certainly can. The level plus the additional items, Akaadian was smart to back off, but Gate has arrived to offer a little bit of support, so they will at least push Dardoch out of the jungle. And this is big because you cannot afford to lose control of your jungle this early in the game.
Dardoch right back into the mix though, finding a little bit of damage onto Gate. Of course, that's lessened by the Malzahar passive. Some damage coming in from Olleh over the wall as well. Keith is low enough that he doesn't really want anything to do with all this. He's going to take the opportunity to get himself back while he can. Instead decides to cancel that, hanging around still now that Gate's made his way back bottom lane.
Yeah, I think he's assuming that Cody Sun is going to base here now too. So he will be able to at least pick up the farm and then try to base himself. He could go for one additional wave push if he wants to look for that. We also have to track the fact that Flame is now level 6. So any move that Akaadian wants to make, if it's not top lane, he has to expect an extra person to show up.
And Shen's capability to swing these fights is just massive. Flame not going to be finding the taunt onto Froggen there. The Valkyrie gets off in time to get him away to safety. But with both teleports down, this is going to put Echo Fox in a spot where they're very afraid to make any kind of a move that they are not beyond 100% certain will work out through that shield, because Flame will be there.
Yeah, you have to be able to be very certain you're going to execute this guy, kill him off before the Shen can come through, and ooh, Akaadian's in trouble. He's very low, has to get out of there, and that's going to be another rev up going over.
Dardoch getting himself bound up though. The damage comes through, and Dardoch bites off more than he can chew. Echo Fox finally getting one in return. Gonna go over to Gate. He grabs the red buff onto himself. Would have rather had that onto somebody like Akaadian or maybe Keith, but a kill is a kill.
You know what the funny part about that is? It actually tips them off that they're going for this lane swap early. So even though Dardoch does go down, Cody Sun immediately is hard pushing, and he will likely get the turret first. So he's going to get the first turret kill when Echo Fox may have been able to get it otherwise. So it doesn't end up as bad as you would expect because Immortals may even be able to defend the top side, and this could go well for them.
Flame's doing a lot of damage here onto Looper, trying to just buy as much time as he can, maybe even threaten a kill. Keith, one more turret shot would have been dangerous, man. Immortals doing a good job holding on top side, grabbing turret first blood in the bottom side. They're still up 2K.
Even with that kill on Dardoch, it still comes out positive for Immortals. And Dardoch is level 6, has the ultimate, can look. Flame did a great job fighting aggressively for that defense because he knew Olleh was there to back him up. And at the same time, Cody Sun gets the free farm. He's up in CS. He gets all the local gold. This is pushing that Sivir quite a bit ahead of the Jhin right now.
And that's what they want to see on Immortals, because the biggest problem with Sivir, at least in the early game, is going to be you're not hitting those lethality power spikes that the Jhin is, so you're going to need a little bit more time to ramp up. Every lead is going to alleviate that pressure that much more easily.
And this was just a really nice taunt here from Flame. Not enough respect really shown there by Looper, and with all that damage down on him, now Keith gets aggro of the turret. Echo Fox did not handle this very well whatsoever, and now low health bars on both. They had to back off there, and Flame did a great job defending that turret.
And to the point we made earlier a little bit about maybe we're going to see some mid lane focus from these junglers with the summoner spells down. That didn't end up happening. Both mid laners now back up with both flashes and exhausts ready to go. And when they've both got that big, impactful combat summoner spell with the exhaust, fights could go all over the place if the junglers do decide to move themselves in here. Shock Blast not going to find its mark to the acceleration gate. Looper hanging around, but he's not really going to be finding a whole lot either. With turret first blood down, though, we could expect to see a little bit more focus towards this Dragon Pit soon.
Yeah, you really could. I think it's going to be about who can make the first pick. Immortals wants the Dragon. They have already rotated their bot lane down here, and they're going to start it up right away. Keith is actually returning to topside, which may signal that Fox is just going to give it up, and they're looking mid. 2 flashes blown. Not going to get the kill, and that's going to be a free Dragon now over to Immortals, so well played by them.
Yep, Immortals grab their objective. They don't lose their mid laner. Pobelter flashes away as Gate flashes at him. He does not get caught out by that Malzahar ulti.
Not even going to get the turret here.
Flame back top in time.
Keith has got to be careful. I mean, no respect shown. He's going to die or have to blow a summoner at the very least here. That is just poor play from Keith.
Has to pop the heal. Probably going to have to use the flash here as well. Does decide to go for it. Gets away to Gate, who's going to pop the ulti just to make sure Flame has no follow-up. Curtain call opened up. Flame's now the one who goes a little bit too far. The bullets will not be finding him, and neither will the crabs. Flame gets himself out, but he scares away both summoner spells from Keith.
I mean, that's twice now that Keith has stood beside the turret with the Shen coming in. He gets hit by the turret there. If he doesn't take a turret shot, he easily just walks away. Instead, 2 times in a row, he's topside. He's taking turret shots. He's getting chunked out. That's going to cost him both his summoners, plus Gate's ultimate, which admittedly is not a super long cooldown, but it is still somewhat of a deal.
Still a 2,000 gold lead for Immortals, though. They're hanging on to exactly what they were working with before. The Bomby Cinder now up for both Flame and Looper, so they're going to have equal extra wave pushing opportunity, dueling power through that itemization. As Cody takes his spot up here in the top side with that bottom lane turret gone, that's where he'll be hanging around, but so will all of Echo
Dardoch's
Fox.
about to face check.
Dardoch is not going to have a good time face checking that one. Luckily, Gate had no ulti from before. Dardoch still getting away thanks to Stand United. Flame makes sure he keeps that jungler alive. The trap set by Echo Fox doesn't pay off for now, and Immortals has launched the assault onto the tier 1.
And that was a good call out, Captain Flowers, because he lives there since Gate had to blow his flash because of Keith's, or sorry, had to blow his ultimate because of Keith's poor play. I mean, if they have the Malzahar ultimate there, that's an easy kill on Dardoch. Instead, they don't. He gets away scot-free. This is kind of a good example of how these mistakes can have lasting impact. It's more than just the initial play. It's the next play that fails because of the first one.
Right, it's not just both summoner spells from Keith being out the window. That was what we originally took as the cost. But now it's both summoner spells and a kill. And the momentum you could have taken from the kill.
Yep.
This massive snowball. And speaking of snowballing, Immortals is going to balloon that gold lead a little bit harder, up to about 3K now, grabbing turret number 2 from the mid lane.
Certainly are looking good so far. Already a completed warrior for Dardoch. He has a challenging smite, as you called out, so he is going to be very happy to duel up Akaadian 1v1 anytime he sees him. And they're constantly posturing aggressively in the jungle. I did get him killed off once, and it looks like Echo Fox is trying to make a collapse, but they're going to lose the top lane turret. That's all 3 outers down. A pretty sizable gold lead here early on for Immortals. And they have in my opinion, the better scaling composition when you look at the AD carries, when you look kind of across the board. They're looking pretty powerful in the late game, and they're also going to have kind of a split push advantage because of the Shen.
The one weakness the team might have is the fact that it is very attack damage heavy. Not a lot of magic damage coming through from this side. That is one advantage we often talk about when we talk about Jayce versus Corki, is Corki brings some magic damage to the team, but Dardoch, Cody, and Pobelter are all going to be doing heavy attack damage. Sure, you get some magic in there from Olleh and Flame, but it's still a vastly lopsided comp in terms of that. So that might be one saving grace.
It really is, and Looper is going to have to be very big for them in this game, right? He's done fine so far, but he needs to become that super tank on Poppy, and he needs to be on point with a heroic presence, right? If he can deny assassinations, if he can deny taunts in the team fights, that can be the window that Echo Fox needs to actually keep their marksmen safe and get some wins in that team fight. But at the same time, with Dardoch, he's off to a good start. Double speed ups for him. Huge backline damage coming out from people like Cody Sun and Pobelter in the late game. That's pretty frightening too.
Cody and Olleh continuing to put the pressure onto the bottom side. Pobelter making the rotation down here now as well, firing off that shock blast into his opponent. And when it comes to stacking that armor up for Looper, it's going to be more important than ever with the way lethality works now. That Jayce is going to be hurting so very much and piercing through so much of that armor. You're going to need that much more piled on to make it effective.
Yeah, you definitely do. But one thing to say is that lethality is much more effective against people who have low armor than armor stackers. That is, kind of one of the weaknesses of it, because you're not building percentage armor pen, you're just building flat armor pen. So when you have a Poppy that has 200 armor or 300 armor or whatever, that's 50, 60, 70 armor pen that you can build up, lethality rather, doesn't feel as impactful. That's why you need things like Blast Whisper, like Black Cleaver, to deal with the really tanky people.
Package is ready for delivery from Froggen, but like most early game Corki packages, it's probably not going to be going a whole lot of anywhere. Gate walking up to this brush. Accelerated Shock Blast finds Akaadian instead. Gate probably would have rather eaten that one with his passive, but he walks away. Akaadian loses some of his health, but he'll still be all right. Eats up some of those honey fruits as Olleh shows up to scare him away from the last one. Drake's going to be spawning for the second time this game in just under a minute. Immortals was able to easily provide themselves the first one, and with a 3,000 gold advantage, they'll likely be able to do the same here for number 2.
I mean, you love getting the Ocean as a team like this. On Pobelter, you're not building a tier Jayce. They haven't been building for a really long time. Even just having extra mana regen from that can be very, very helpful. It allows you to keep poking and sieging longer than you otherwise would be able to. They probably would still prefer something like an Infernal, but Ocean is going to be really useful, especially when it's your first dragon and you get it in the early game.
And taking a look, the items are starting to come online now as well. You've got the Ghost Blade on both the Jayce and the Jhin. Corki hit his Trinity Force. Shen's got the Sunfire Cape up and going. So these champions are starting to hit the point where they have significant improvements to what they're able to do, and we're likely going to be seeing that in this next big fight that may break out here just in moments, potentially over this draft.
Yeah, we may see it, but it looks like, once again, Echo Fox isn't comfortable to challenge for it. Their warding is mostly defensive. They've not really been able to actually encroach into the Dragon Pit area, and without the vision, they're not willing to make the move. So that is going to be yet another dragon going to Immortals. They'll have the extra regen to keep those sieges up.
That's a smart decision. If you don't have the vision, you're likely just walking into certain death. Echo Fox chooses the lesser of two evils, as Akaadian and the army of Malzahar crabs decide to steal away the blue buff, at least get something for their troubles. Pobelter continuing to push here in the bottom side. The tier 2 turret going to be melting away to Pobelter and Dardoch, as Looper is forced to retreat and the objective advantage continues to grow on the side of Immortals. Cody Sun having to run away from Froggen. Olleh's here to find that tether. Froggen returns some fire onto Cody, so he can't get too much after that. But Immortals are just never letting up this pressure, while Fox is responding in the top side. They're onto the tier 2 with Gate and Keith, and they should be able to take this one down.
Yeah, it's going to be a turret trade. We'll see if Echo Fox can defend their mid lane after this. If they can, it's a pretty decent trade, but it's going down fast. Dardoch now looking for Froggen. We'll back off.
Yeah, the damage from the Corki, that burst is really scary, especially when he's got the exhaust. Dardoch knew that he wasn't going to be winning that 1v1 if he decided to make the jump, not with the health he was at. Looper going for the flash into the slam, into the wall, Stand United keeping him alive. Curtain Call opens up. Olleh's going to be the one stuck now with the Gate ultimate. The bullet comes through, and Keith gets the shot. Olleh, the only casualty in that fight.
Echo Fox making some good moves. They take down a couple turrets, they defend their own, and then the play from Looper, stunning Dardoch, setting up for the later kill onto Olleh. Nicely done by Echo Fox, and it looks like Dardoch is going to be building towards a Black Cleaver. very likely here, probably to try to help shred some of that armor. You know, I wonder if Jayce is going to do that as well. I think that could be something that would be good for him to do, because Dardoch still has some options. But back to the play, the flash stun from Looper is what started it all. And Stand United has been so key. Flame really does deserve some credit, has been super on point with those, keeping Dardoch alive multiple times. No way really to save Olleh there, but it is the lesser prize to give up.
He did everything he could, threw the Spirit's Refuge down on top of him, tried to body block, did everything possible, but still a lot of effort put into that one by Echo Fox. They were not going to be walking away empty-handed. As Pobelter finding a good opportunity to pour some damage into Looper. A nice steadfast presence, going to be blocking that to the skies. Akaadian was hanging around just in case POB decided to take it a little bit too deep, but that's not going to be happening today. Immortals, both kills on their jungler, the one who, as you mentioned, has been being kept alive multiple times just so far by Flame, and you can bet that's going to keep going as this game goes on. The Stand United combination with the Rengar can be very effective.
It really can. I mean, the speed ups, they have the Shen Rengar combo. It's very powerful initiation. We've seen how well Shen can work with divers. Just yesterday, TSM versus C9, the Zed Shen combo was used to great effect by Haunter and Bjergsen, and you can pull similar things off here.
Pobelter stealing away the enemy blue buff like they did to him just a couple of minutes ago, so those are kind of just going to be traded back and forth for the time being. Nobody takes Rift Herald again. He's just not that important. We've seen Immortals go for that in the past a little bit more, but they don't find the opportunity to do so this game, not willing to take that kind of a risk for an objective that's largely considered not really worth it. Keith tries to defend the mid lane tier 2, will successfully do so. It's hanging on by a sliver, but that's still some gold that's not going to be in Immortals' pockets just yet.
Yeah, they really do want to try to hold on to some of these turrets, slow down Immortals, let Looper get to that ultra tanky stage. And he is completing a lot of armor items here. You can see he's not going to go for the Iceborne second, which a lot of people do, kind of more of a dueling type build. He wants to go pure team fight.
Oh, this is going to be a good fight, maybe. Pobelter getting himself away, Froggen walking away as well. They both pop the exhausts. Neither one willing to commit any further to that. Akaadian hanging around, might be looking to make the pick onto Pobelter here.
And he has his evolved wings now. He did not go for the Q, so he has the evolved jump and the evolved W for the poke and also for the reset. So he can look for those long-range assassinations if the opportunity does arise.
And we've seen Akaadian go for the wings more heavily than other players do. A lot of players these days are evolving the wings third. They're saying, you know, we'll wait for that till level 16. Akaadian, the playmaker, the carry. This guy says, no, I need my wings. I need these resets. It's coming online no later than 11.
Yep. A lot of players, I think, may start making the swap that he is to getting those wings, and people are kind of starting to skip the Q a little bit more, as the Kha'Zix evolved Q did get nerfed in 7.3. You get less of a cooldown refund when you do hit those isolated Qs, so the W is always very effective, and the E definitely has a lot of value too. So may see players start shying away from getting that evolved Q unless they get really ahead.
And one thing I want to go ahead and point out is just kind of that difference that we were talking about earlier with the Poppy and the armor stacking. You can see in the difference between the itemization between these tanks at this point. Shen's going for the Spirit Visage, the very standard second item, usually what you see every single game. Poppy doesn't even have to worry about that. She doesn't have to make that magic resistance pit stop. It's just more and more armor stacking. Randuin's Omen likely going to be coming out next. Might be going even for a Frozen Heart, who knows? But there's a lot of armor stacking for this Poppy, and you don't even have to worry about that extra stack.
Yeah, Randuin's Omen going to be ridiculously effective. Frozen Heart would be a super good buy here too, as there's so many auto attackers on Immortals there. But I do think we're going to see him pick up that Randuin's first. Dead Man's Plate does give a lot of playmaking ability too, so it just kind of depends on how highly he's prioritizing that CDR. And just using this Jhin ult basically to try to push them off the turret and try to get damage down. But Dardoch is here, and so is Pobelter.
Zoning ultimate buys a little bit of time, but not enough to claim the objective they came for. Echo Fox still down by about 2,500 gold. They're closing that gold gap slightly, but surely as time goes on. Immortals still hanging around mid lane. They've taken control over this path for now. They've got priority in that lane, but the pings are actually coming out onto the Drake, which is the third Ocean in a row. So this is going to be an incredible amount of regeneration for Immortals.
I mean, just look at Cody Sun. You know, he got poked out pretty hard. He was very low. He's already regened up most of that HP. With triple Ocean, the poke almost means nothing. Echo Fox is moving towards Baron. I'm not sure if they're actually starting. They're just going to try to rush this down. There's no vision from Immortals right now. They are pinging over onto the Baron, but there's a lot of pink wards in between them and the pit. We'll see how fast they move and if they can stop this.
Oh, this is going to be a crazy one, Azael. Here we go. Damage coming in. Echo Fox still trying to finish this off very rapidly, down to about 1,000 HP, and Dardoch's got the steal. Akaadian goes back over the wall. Tragedy strikes for Echo Fox. Immortals grab both neutral objectives.
That is one place where you'd really like to have the evolved Q there for that isolation damage, constantly spamming up. They would have killed it off if he had it. In this case, he does not. They're not able to rush it down, and Dardoch gets the steal. Immortals gets everything. And this was just, I mean, it's basically a 50-50. A great poke from Immortals initially to push them back, and then in comes the smites. He was actually exhausted, Akaadian there, and some of that damage is going to be reduced from his smite Q combo because of the exhaust. I believe it would still reduce your damage on a target like the Baron. I'm not sure if it only works on champions or
it should.
All damage.
I'm pretty sure it's just a general reduction, like your stats go down no matter what you're hitting.
So that's actually a pretty big deal that Olleh got the exhaust down onto Akaadian, because that actually would have messed up his execute combo on the Baron, and that may have been the difference between him getting it and Dardoch pulling off that steal. So nice play if that's the case.
You saw Akaadian's smite come down and Baron Nashor be left with 294 HP or something very close to that. So if the exhaust takes 294 damage off the Q, that exhaust was the difference between Baron and not. For Echo Fox's Immortals, now blessed with that purple buff, shoving down the top side. The tier 2 not going to be standing for very long. A 6-2 turret count now. The only thing left is to break the
on the
base,
side. They're going to try to fight.
Looking to make some kind of a play. Flames the target. That's not the guy you can really make anything happen on, though. And Immortals have got themselves back for now. Dardoch pops the ulti. Won't be using it to re-engage, at least for the time being. Pobelter and Dardoch still hanging around, seeing if they can find any damage on the back end of this fight. But they got what they came for, and they got out. No casualties.
And remember, Immortals can make this a never-ending push if they want. They have triple ocean, so they don't pretty much ever have to base. They can stay out on the field, even if you got poked out. As long as you don't die in a straight-up hard engage, you will constantly be healing up, getting the mana back, and you will be able to stay out on the field and continue to push over and over and over.
Edge of Nights also up and running on both Pobelter and Dardoch, so these guys are slippery as all hell to catch. It is so difficult to get a hold of somebody like this. You're walking through a brush, prime the Edge of Night. Face checking's not anywhere near as dangerous. It's a lot easier to get away with aggressive forward type of plays.
It really is, especially for things like Gate, who would love to look for the flash ultimates. You have to make sure that that Edge of Night is already down before you can even go for that Nether Grasp. And for Dardoch on the Rengar, it's such an easy primer to just pop the Edge of Night in your ultimate before you make your leap. And you can do that every single time. It's going to make it that much harder to actually peel him off and keep their carries safe.
Plus, when he's got Flame channeling the Stand United on him, he's jumping in with a massive Shen shield, with an Edge of Night shield.
And sped up by his team.
And he's sped up. He's going to have the Olleh shields. It's a really frightening proposition to have this guy barreling down on you. Speaking of being barreled down on, this turret in the mid lane, the last one standing for Echo Fox in that lane. Trying to hold on to this inhibitor line as long as they can. Keith down very low, has to go back to the fountain. No Ocean Drake for these guys means regeneration is a much taller order.
Just look at Cody Sun's health going up so fast from that regen. He does get poked out. We'll see how fast he can get back up, because he has the red buff and he has triple ocean. So as soon as he actually gets out of combat,
Akaadian! Flash taunted, the kill coming through for Immortals as Flame's gonna be backing himself out, exhausted, a little bit more damage might just take him. Deadly Flourish gonna be sidestepped, Flame goes down, but it's still a 2-for-1 so far. Immortals making the moves happen. They've got themselves a 4 versus 3 for the next 20 seconds at least. This should be the inhibitor turret.
Yeah, and it's Ocean right back up to health, and Dardoch was able to get the execute onto Keith. No summoners used there from Keith, could not react in time as Dardoch flew in and took him out, and that is going to be the inhibitor perhaps going down, but Looper's out here, they want to fight.
Looper wants to stop this one if he can. Exhaust down onto Froggen, going to be forcing him to retreat into the back line. Dardoch already able to find the kill onto Gate. Looper going to be chased down next. Dardoch having to retreat. Looper's able to grab one on the way out. Olleh going to be taken low next. Pobelter trying to finish Looper off. Akaadian comes right into the fight. Wings soaring. Froggen grabbing the kill onto Pobelter as Cody Sun, the last man standing on Immortals, having to run away, but Akaadian is not going to be looking to let that happen now. Fox grabs the near ace.
And Looper coming up huge. They're so tanky, they could not deal with him in the front line. They actually keep their inhibitor alive. It was an auto or two from going down there. That is a big swing for Echo Fox. What looked like it could be the game-ending push for Immortals, ends up getting them shut down and putting Echo Fox right back into it.
Fantastic defense from Echo Fox. Froggen now going to be claiming this tier 1 turret on the side of Immortals. That's only their third. They've got a lot of catching up to do, Azael, but they're on the right track.
I mean, it's a standing gold, and Looper just could not be taken down. He is able to soak so much damage, buys so much time, and this allows their carries the freedom. Keith respawned. This was actually such a long fight that Keith died at the start, respawned to finish it off. So that gives you an idea of how crazy it was.
7-5, and there's your damage in the last team fight. Cody Sun, Cody Sun, Cody Sun, the name of the game. Froggen doing a decent job for his team, but his damage was still almost doubled by Cody's.
Yeah, Cody Sun put out a lot of damage. That's the power of that Sivir getting to some of the late game items. He doesn't even have his Infinity Edge yet at this point. When he gets that Infinity Edge, he's going to be massively more powerful. Has picked up the Last Whisper, but definitely going to take some time to punch through that Poppy, who is going to be going likely towards that Frozen Heart or perhaps an Iceborne. Looper's in there.
Echo Fox trying to stop these guys from getting away. Dardoch's going to be shut down before anything can happen this time around. Looper looking to block off the retreats as long as he can. Echo Fox, they found one, but can they go for any more? Olleh's going to be chunked down to about half. Poke being shot off from Immortals, trying to cover their retreat. As you've mentioned so many times already, they will continue to heal up as soon as they disengage these fights. Echo Fox, though, they trade the Mountain Drake for the kill onto the enemy jungler.
And the Baron is coming up pretty soon here, so this can let Echo Fox set up for that and perhaps go back to the scene of the crime where they were robbed blind by Dardoch last time. We'll see if they want to do it. They're at least going to try to set up vision, perhaps try to get that as their advantage, because they can't get more than Dardoch on that kill, and it's still a fine trade for Immortals because they get the Dragon for just one death.
This may be Akaadian's chance to redeem himself. If they go for another 50-50, he knows he's got to win this one to bring his team back into a spot where they're feeling good about winning this game. Baron is live. 3 Ocean Drakes and 1 Mountain Drake for Immortals means not only do they take it down quicker, but if those constant dances around Baron result in small damages to the health bars, it will wear Echo Fox down over time. Look at how much pain Froggen takes from those accelerated shock blasts, and that's not going to be coming back easily.
No, it definitely won't. I mean, this guy is going to be ridiculously scary. And Froggen is really powerful at this point too, with his 3 completed items, hitting the rapid fire plus the IE. He's going for more of that traditional AD carry build, and is going to be able to put out a lot of damage. People talk about this being the superior build against tanks, whereas Gunblade cannot really deal with tanks in the late game. So he wants to be able to have some damage to help Keith punch through Flame, because Jhin is not really a tank killer, right? But Malzahar in combination with the Corki, in combination with Keith, that gives you % HP damage, it gives you mixed damage, and it gives you a way to deal with the Shen.
Echo Fox being very careful around the Baron this time around. They know that they're still behind, despite the fact that they've managed to hang on in the game so far. Some control wards being placed down by Immortals around the Baron area. They're now also respecting Fox a lot more. Up until this point, it was kind of just this massive steamroller of Immortals running over this game. But once Echo Fox made that stand, once they got that near ace onto Immortals, all of a sudden Immortals are like, hold up, we got to be careful about this.
Yeah, you have to pay them some respect because you could be winning the entire game, but these late game team fights, a lot of it is decided by positioning, by the in-team fight play. And if you make any mistakes, it doesn't really matter if you have a couple thousand gold lead, right? It can get turned right around on you, especially with how explosive some of these champions are. I mean, Dardoch has a lot of gold on his champion. He can either one-shot someone, or he can get caught by a Malzahar and die instantly, right? So it's like, it could go very differently depending on the play.
A stark contrast between these two teams.
Certainly is.
And we do got to remember, too, the last time these two teams played, like we already talked about, Immortals walked away with the win, but Akaadian was like, you know, I played better. I played better. I beat Dardoch. That should have been...
This game
that's
so
gonna be the story
far
this time.
Has been Dardoch, though.
Right.
Dardoch gets the first blood. Dardoch steals the Baron. Akaadian did have a good team fight in the base not long ago, and he was able to pick some kills up on the back end of that, but he's definitely going to need to be able to step up here and be impactful for his team. He's almost at that level 16, which is going to be a big moment for the Kha'Zix as he can get that final evolution.
They'd love to be able to grab that for themselves if they could before this Baron fight, but That's mostly going to be up to Immortals, who do have control and priority over the area. Elder Drake is also going to be spawning a little bit over 2 minutes from now. The last Drake was taken just a little after 29, so that means Elder is going to be spawning just slightly after 35.
Yeah, the Elder is going to be nuts for Immortals and really not any good for Echo Fox because you get true damage based on how many dragons you've killed throughout the game. So Immortals has collected 4, and if they take the Elder, they're going to have so much true damage, whereas Echo Fox only gets the base 45, but they will still have to fight over it every single time because you can't afford to give it up to your opponents.
Right. Even if it's just not very good or appealing at all for you, the prospect of giving that away, of allowing Immortals to have that 225 true damage burn on everything they do is way too scary to risk.
Yeah, it really is. Well, Thorn Mail now completed for Flame, so that is going to make it a little bit scarier for guys like Froggen and Keith if they are auto-attacking away on him because they don't have lifesteal built up. So you can take a lot of ambient damage from things like hitting into the Thorn Mail and just ricochets coming through from Cody Sun, any Shock Blast, anything that reaches the back line. You can get chunks quite low without even being heavily focused, and that's something that you do have to be able to track in these team fights.
Dardoch just grabbing a cheeky shot onto Akaadian there, getting himself back, not too worried about it. Flame continuing the split push in the bottom lane. He and Looper, just the classic popping version.
Immortals straight to Baron.
As Immortals are melting this down rather rapidly. It's warded. Echo Fox knows this is being done, but I don't know if they're going to do anything about it. Dardoch with the secure. And now we see if Immortals can find success with Baron number 2.
That was just really well done there by Immortals. They push Akaadian out of his own jungle. As soon as he is leaped back towards his base, they rush the Baron. They have Shen drawing pressure on the bot side. Their split push is going to be that much stronger. And you said it, they get their second chance at closing this one out with the Baron.
And with that second push, they're also going to have 4 big items now on Cody Sun.
Yeah, he's going to be huge.
Not to mention, you've also got your Ardent Sensor up and running for the Karma, so it's going to be that much more supporting power onto that Sivir so that Cody can have those massive damage numbers in these fights and hopefully in this game for Immortals.
Yeah, really a lot of it is going to be about Cody Sun. Now that he is at this point in the game, if you cannot deal with the Sivir, you will not win the team fight. Echo Fox does have some burst potential to take him down, but if they give up this Elder, I think it's going to be curtains for Echo Fox. They're going to have to try to fight for it. It's getting low now.
Fox realizes this. They can't be giving away both Baron and Elder Drake. They managed to scare Immortals away from it for now. They've still got all their inhibitors up and running, so no free pressure into the base to make them have to do anything too crazy here. Immortals deciding to back off, need to regroup, think about this strategy, not waste the Baron buff, having anybody get picked off by that Malzahar ulti or something similar. Froggen ready with package.
He is looking on the side, and Looper is coming up from below them. They're going to try to collapse on this fight, but Akaadian's very low.
Akaadian going to be brought low super rapidly. Pobelter might be in a little bit of trouble here. Deadly Flourish coming out. Stand United going to be keeping POB alive. The jump onto Looper not going to be successful thanks to that steadfast presence.
Rengar's looking on the side. He will look for Akaadian over the wall.
Dardoch wants to jump for it. He's able to grab it. He's got the kill, and now this could be the fight Immortals are going for, but Flames over the wall. He's not doing anything. He's tied up by the Malzahar. The curtain call is able to find 2. Pobelter now going to be slammed around and juggled up and down. Cody Sun's got the damage. Looper goes down next. 2 for 2.
Top lane and jungle down for both sides, but Immortals are moving over to Elder. They have the Triple Ocean. They're starting this up. Can Echo Fox get down there in time, and do they even know what's going on? It looks like that's going to be a no, and Immortals will claim the ultimate prize with the Elder Dragon.
An even team fight that still results in a victory for IMT. They grab what they came for. Baron buff still on him for a little while. That Drake is going to be huge.
And this was a crazy one. Froggen trying to come across with the package was well played, but he does not really hit the package onto any of the members. Akaadian had already been chunked out, and this did kind of slow things down a lot. And then Dardoch wrapping around, looking for Akaadian. He wants to be able to spot him out. He sees him over the wall as he's the closest member, takes him down, but does end up eventually trading his life as Keith is able to get some pretty nice smites, or snipes down onto him. So it was an even trade there, but the problem is Keith is very low, Echo Fox cannot stick around, and now this is the 4 Dragon Elder buff going out on these guys, and even just a random ricochet from Cody Sun has the potential to do upwards of 500, 600 damage between the true damage burn plus its base damage.
very, very scary. Speaking of scary, Froggen's damage in that fight was really, really high.
And Akaadians?
And Akaadians was a big fat 0, so not a lot happening for everybody's favorite purple bug, or least favorite purple bug if you're not a big fan of Kha'Zix, but Akaadian would like to see numbers at least a little bit higher than that one as Immortals.
EchoFox is going to engage here, so they don't want to wait this out. You can see Looper is behind, and Shen is not here yet. He does have Stand United, but they are looking for the engage. We'll see if they can get it.
Immortals needs to make this fight happen, and Fox has to be so very careful.
They see Looper now on the ward.
Wrong step. And it's going to be Curtains as here comes the curtain call. Pobelter going to be slammed backwards, but nothing comes of it just yet. Look at how badly that burn melts away Looper's health bar. Dardoch's able to grab the kill onto Keith. Gate's going to be next. Akaadian follows. EchoFox is routed, and Immortals are going to be finding their win from this one.
Doesn't matter how much armor you have on that one, as the true damage punches right through them. EchoFox make the last play they had to make, but Immortals are going to take game number 1. Great team fight.
Immortals, they finished this game with a 7-4-2 score on that Rengar compared to the 1-4-6 on Kha'Zix. I think considering all the talk coming out from both of these junglers, you got to give it to Dardoch in round 1.
Yeah, you have to give round 1 to Dardoch. He gets the first blood, he steals the Baron, secures their next one, and this one was really all about Immortals. They looked great start to finish. Looper and EchoFox were able to battle back. They had one good fight inside the base where they were able to clean up Immortals and looked like they had a chance to get back in, but they could not compete against the global objectives. The Baron going over, the Elder going over, that really did seal the deal.
And you could hear the crowd chanting as the game ended, Dardoch, Dardoch, Dardoch. They know the man who was responsible for so many of the plays in that game, whether it was the first blood or the Baron steal or the catch onto Akaadian there towards the end that ended up allowing them to safely take that Elder Drake. Dardoch was constantly finding value in his decisions and his plays.
Yeah, he worked very well, and I think they drafted themselves a very good composition for him to succeed with the speed ups, with the Shen ultimate to back him up, and the fact that they got that early lead allowed them to get all the early dragons, which I think was so big in them getting this win eventually. You know, one guy who does need to be kind of called out here is Froggen for having a really good game for EchoFox. You know, he deathless in their loss. He was 3-0-5. He had 400 CS in 39 minutes. You know, Froggen was really playing well here, very quietly as his team kind of was always behind, but still had a very good game for himself.
Let's go ahead and take a look at that final fight from that game that Immortals were able to end everything with 4-0.
And I mean, this is really a desperation fight. They want to try to get an instant engage and kill someone off right away, but Immortals, it was quick to react, they back out, and then the true damage is getting turned on Looper as Dardoch goes into the backline with his Shen ultimate coming out. So it was mostly just about solid disengage for Immortals and not allowing Looper to get that proper setup, because that was EchoFox's hope, right? If you pin Pobelter against the wall there and you instantly kill him, that could be your team fight, but Immortals plays it properly and are rewarded with that win.
You can see the gold difference over time. It's just a big blue mountain range as Immortals never really felt in danger of losing control of the game. There was a time where you see the range dip down a little bit before 30 minutes where things got a little bit sketchy for them after EchoFox was able to make that good turnaround in their own base. But ultimately, the story ended up being the same. It just took a little bit longer.
And you can see how little Akaadian was able to really get involved in this game. Only 6,000 damage in an almost 40-minute game on Kha'Zix is not anything to write home about. I mean, yes, you are an assassin. It's hard to get involved, but even just with the W spam, you'd hope that you could get some semblance of damage out there. I mean, he did less than the Karma. He did less than the Malzahar. Definitely having some struggles in this game.
And talking about damage, we got to talk about Cody Sun too, because you were mentioning the Sivir pick and how it can work against the Jhin and these types of setups. We're seeing so much these days about lethality, about Varus, and about Jhin. And the Sivir pick is a very different kind of a pick, but when you look at 21,500 damage to 12,000 damage, huge differences.
It really is. And Sivir, it's about being able to not fall too far behind in the early stages, because when Jhin completes a Ghost Blade, you don't have much to your name, right? You know, at those early lethality breakpoints, your opponent is going to be much stronger. But if you can play the game to farm it out, if you can get to those late stages in the game where you have your completed items, you'll put out way more DPS than the Jhin in a team fight. So it's kind of risk versus reward. Immortals got to that late stage in the game, and honestly, it would still just be an upward trend, even if they couldn't end from there, because Cody Sun still had a final item to get. Then you can sell your boots out for another Zeal item, so you can get ridiculously powerful on that Sivir.
Good stuff coming out from him, but we are headed for a break right now. When we return, it's going to be game 2 between Immortals and Echo Fox. Stay with us. You're watching